I'm Asha, and I work with the Word Lab and the library, and together we host City Scripts, which is a series of monthly interactions around the urban, which represents IHS's commitment to public engagement. And these monthly events culminate in our annual 3-day festival, typically held in May. IHS has been hosting City Scripts since 2016. When we first started thinking about putting a festival together, we knew we wanted to highlight city-themed books. However, there was also a growing archive of city stories coming from non-traditional sources such as digital media platforms and electronic publishing. To be able to bring these diverse forms to the festival, we decided that this would be a writings festival and not a lit fest, to distinguish that it would go beyond books and authors. Over the years, we have showcased urban stories through the lenses of caste, activism, food, music, language, and lived experiences. Masterclasses, workshops, interactive installations, and performances have made the festival more experiential and connected the city with contemporary going-ons grounded in research. City Scripts is one way by which IHS posits that art and culture as being important in understanding societal transformation. The festival has become more grounded within themes of current significance, such as climate change, sanitation, disaster risk resilience, identity, language and translation, digital labor, and several others evolving themes that we research at the Institute. Our panel today, City and the Festival, is something that it's a topic that we're very excited in, and it allows us to sort of critically engage the work that we also do within the Institute. And it's hosted in collaboration with the Museum of Art and Photography. And we'll be looking at how festivals rooted in cities have created new ways of engagement and understanding of our cities, especially Bangalore. I'm happy to introduce our speakers for this evening. We have Nitya, who teaches as part of the English faculty group at the School of Arts and Sciences, Azim Premji University in Bangalore. She's co-director of the Bangalore Queer Film Festival, which is seeing its 13th year in 2023. Thank you so much for being here. We have Mr. Ravichandar, who's currently the honorary director of Bangalore International Center and is part of the core team that organizes the Bangalore Literature Festival annually. Since 2000, he's been involved with pro bono initiatives with the state, central government, and civil society on urban issues, starting with the Bangalore Agenda Task Force. In Bangalore, he advocated the self-assessment scheme of property tax, tender shore roads, and reimagined Bengaluru's governance as a member of the BBMP Restructuring Committee. We also have Shinie Antony, who's written several short stories, including Barefoot and Pregnant and The Orphanage for Words, as well as novels such as The Girl Who Couldn't Love and When Meera Went Forth and Multiplied. She has also compiled the anthologies Why We Don't Talk, An Unsuitable Woman, and Boo. She's a co-founder of the Bangalore Literature Festival and director of the Bengaluru Poetry Festival. Her story, A Dog's Death, won the Commonwealth Short Story Asia Prize in 2002, and she's currently working on her new novel, Can't, which is slated to release next year. Our moderator for this evening is Mahalakshmi, and she's a senior content writer with the city-based content agency, Don't Be Content. Don't Be Content. She's also a regular contributor to Mint. Previously, she was a special correspondent with Times of India's Bangalore Bureau, covering the culture and lifestyle beats. She's also had stints at DNA and Bangalore Mirror. So thank you all so much for joining us. Before we start, may I please request you to switch off your phones or put them on silent, please. We'll also be taking questions at the end, so if you could wait for the mics to be handed to you. Today, we also have Indian Sign Language interpretation as part of the event. Over to you. All yours.
Thank you so much for turning up on a Friday evening for this interesting discussion. So I actually have a very brief introduction. So I'm a culture journalist and I've been covering the beat for quite a while. So as a culture journalist, when you're covering festivals in the city, you always get a ringside view. It's like you're either reporting about it or you're interviewing the speakers, but that's about it. And over the years, I've had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask the festival directors, and this session kind of has given me that opportunity. And now, without further ado, I'm just going to get into the task. Shinie comes, yeah. she's stuck in a Bangalore traffic jam. So I'll tell you, like every superhero story, you have that origin story. I thought we'll start right from the beginning when it comes to how the festivals were conceived and realized, right? My question to you, I want to start with BLF because I think that's the most recognized festival, and I think it's one of the festivals where a lot of people, I mean, it sees turnouts in thousands every year. It has become one of the city's favorite community festivals, to speak. Ravi, tell me this. So when I went to the Bangalore BLF's website, to read and to the About Us page, when it comes to the intro, they actually say that the idea when they conceived it was to make it a flagship literature festival that was rooted in Bangalore and create a space for compelling discussions. I think before BLF, the only other example we had was Jaipur Literature Festival, right? So tell me that, when the festival started, because you didn't have any other examples or anyone else to look up to, what was the scale? I mean, did the scale of it daunt you because you knew it could be a hit or a miss? So can you go,
Since there were no comparables, I think the group that, since there were, switch it on, since there were no comparables apart from Jaipur Literature Festival, which was in a different league. I mean, it hadn't really arrived to the levels that Jaipur Literature Festival today is. And actually the origins were, there were three of them. So there was Vikram Sampath, Shinie, and Sri Krishna. And these were the three trustees who wanted to get this started. I've been part of the festival from year one, but I was the guy who had to raise the money year on year. So we have had 10 editions, and this year the 11th edition, just a shout out for it. It's on December 3rd and 4th at the Lalita Shok. So the genesis really was, Vikram was an author, Shinie was an author and also an editor, and Sri Krishna was a good friend of Vikram and interested in this area. So that's really, actually on a wing and a prayer they started. I don't think, because I was part of the initial sessions, I remember asking Vikram, what's your plans to fund this festival? He said, he didn't even think money was required to run a festival. That's when I realized that the group needed help. So he said, it'll sort of figure itself out. So I think when we started out in year one, it still was a reasonable success. About 2,500 people turned up on that first one at Jai Mahal thing. And currently about 25,000 people turn up over the weekend, over 2 days. So that's the scale that it has grown over in 10 years. So to answer your question, I think there was no over-analysis because that might have paralyzed the group. We just said, let's get started, figure out how much money is required, and that was really the origin back in 2012.
Oh, there.
There's Shinie.
Shinie.
Shinie, I just answered the first question on BLF. So Shinie is one of the co-founders of the Bangalore Literature Festival. So let her answer independent of me so that we'll see what she says.
So coming to BLF, what I want to know is when you started with that whole idea, was it daunting? One, and did you have like a 5-year vision of where you saw the festival going? Or was it like, let's take it year by year?
I first, can you hear me, right? I first want to apologize for arriving so late. I got out with sunglasses on, and I've reached like some husband for Karwa Chauth, over here. Is this better? Okay. Can I be heard better now? Okay. So the question was, did we think 5 years down the line? No, definitely not even 1 year down the line. Till I think the festival, the first edition of the first festival actually went live, there was no such feeling that this would be easy or this would have a reincarnation, annual reincarnation. And I just want to say that, I don't know my bio, if you read it out, I'm a short story writer, so the word short is very much a part of how I think. Our founder, writer, and he was my neighbor at that point too, Vikram Sampath, he had this very, very 70 vision of the festival. If left to me, I would have had it in my drawing room with 2 writers whom I know, and I would have been in conversation with them and invited my friends to come over or something. I think between him and me, at least in the initial stages, he spoke about it for months actually, for almost a year. And I was always the doomsayer. You know, I would say, are you sure we can do this? You know, of course, I didn't even come to the part where Ravi comes in very seamlessly and beautifully into the team, the funding part of it. We were just thinking about, would there be an audience? You know, is it possible to collect so many writers under a roof and give a program that is not just very purist literature, but also entertaining?
Right. Okay. Nitya, BQFF actually, in terms of the how old the festival is, I think BQFF is actually older even than the BLF because it started in 2009. I know you joined a year after the fest was founded, but I'll tell you what, in 2010, Action 377A was not repealed. I mean, LGBTQ was a very controversial topic at the time, and I think barring the Kashish festival in Bombay, again, you didn't have a film festival dedicated to queer films. It was still a new idea. And, I know, I was a newbie journalist at that time, and I remember being very fascinated by it. Tell me that, like, do you think, when the festival started, tell me about Bangalore, the city. Do you think it kind of played a role because it's liberal and progressive? Was the image of Bangalore did it make it easy for you guys to say, let's try it out and try such a niche and experimental genre here? Was it a safe bet in that sense?
Is it working? Yeah. Okay. First off, the BQFF has had previous avatars. So in 2003, there was a first small festival called Bangalore, which was organized by Pedipix and Sangama and Swabhava and Prerna, which is a lesbian and bisexual women's group which doesn't exist anymore. So then after that, 2006 to 8, there were smaller festivals organized by Goodis You. So 2009-10 is not the starting point of the festival. I had to dig up a little bit of this history, right? So for this panel. So then 2009 onwards, it was BQFF. It was called BQFF, and right now we are hitting our auspicious 13th year, whatever. So this in 2023. So it's not entirely tied up with the fate of Section 377 that way. I would say that it's also because Bangalore as a space has been home to a lot of organizations, NGOs, collectives that came up in the late 80s, 90s, and it is that kind of space in which a certain kind of activism found root, right? So it's that along with, and I would not, there is no blanket liberal city here that we're in. So
There's no blanket
I would not say that is, that's a sole factor or only factor, which made it possible. Because, I mean, also now we're seeing that before Bangalore or even Kashish, there was dialogues in Kolkata, for example, right? There was a film festival there. Chennai has it, Trivandrum has it, Pune has it, even Bihar has it.
There are a lot of other
festivals right now. Yeah. So, but there were a lot of older avatars and older attempts. Niga in Delhi, all of these preceded, even Kashish or BQFF. So, Larzish in Bombay, many which have come up and died, and it's. Yeah, so it's a very complex history of film festivals and queerness and identity and all of that.
But I think what's probably noteworthy then is that you've been consistent. It's not stopped. You're in the 13th edition and it's flown, run very smoothly over the years. No, we'll come to that later, I guess. Ravi, now coming to the BIC Hub. I mean, I think you've probably been behind quite a few community festivals in the city, including the Open Streets also, right? But coming to the BIC Hub, it is probably the youngest in terms of the community festivals we have in Bangalore. Tell me about that. Was it about celebrating BIC, which has actually become one of the city's favorite venues today? What was it about, like the concept behind that?
So before I come to Habba, since we are into bragging rights and origins, BIC started in 2005, 17 years ago. So might as well just lay one flag for that. And like J.N. Devi says, India is a country with many beginnings, and depending on which year you want to choose. So we have this new beginning which started in 2019 with the shift to our own premises. Earlier we were in Terry using their auditorium. So 2019 you could call it as a new beginning in the new premises. So BIC Haba has now been held for 4 years. I actually like to think of BIC as a festival venue round the year. That's how in my head, because we are doing about 275 events per year. And so every other day there's something or the other happening. So I really think we are a festival place right round the year. But that said, the idea of the BIC Haba was to create some properties which has some kind of a recurring, that it would be there on the same last weekend of February year on year. And we chose the Habba idea really to say that let's showcase, I mean, Habba's got a very local connotation. And historically, we earlier used to have the Bangalore Habba, which then died off. So we said, let's use that and pun with the hub bars. So we spell it differently too. So that was really the idea, to create a property that we could do every year and expect that to happen. So in year 1 and year 2, since BIC, the new BIC was not known, we said we will showcase what normally happens at BIC. So there were performances in the auditorium, from film screenings to dance to plays, etc. There were policy at that talks, like the intellectual stuff that happens. Then there was heritage talks about Bangalore. So the idea was to say, through what's happening here, let's show what all BIC does. That's how it started. Then post-COVID, in fact, the last Habba, we said, look, the craft people have taken a big hit. So we gave the place over to 65 crafts people. So we just gave the space and said, for 2 days, come here, we will pay for your coming here, and whatever you sell here is yours. So we just used the space for that. So thematically, while the Habba happens, what happens each year is contextual. Like the Habba this year in the last weekend of February is going to be around climate change. So the whole building, and for 2 days, so whether it's performances, talks, exhibitions, everything will be around climate change and sustainability as the idea. So that's really one. And we are also thinking it won't be just the Habba. And over time, we actually seeing about 8 to 10 properties developing. So one property will be BIC Dialogues. And 2-3 days, we'll just have dialogues on various subjects. Right. Another one could be BIC Futures. So we'll just look at futures for 2-3 days as the thing. So that's the idea, really.
All right.
So you haven't seen anything yet.
That's intriguing. Okay, now I'm going to, when you're talking about festivals, I've always been, I love the title festival director. It's so grand. It almost makes you feel like you're the director, controlling everything, and the festival's running because of you. But I'm going to ask you, do you want to go off? I want to start with you, Shinie. What is the non-glamorous aspect of it? Or what is it that they don't tell you about what it takes to be a festival director? If there are any aspirants here, you may want to listen to this answer very carefully.
I think for any festival director, you're only as good or bad as your team. And my own experiences are just with these 2 festivals, BLF and the Poetry Festival. And I've really been blessed as far as the team is concerned. And I think anywhere, whether it's in your personal life or professional life, home, work, anywhere, a party that you may just walk into, without that kind of, family turning into friends and friends turning into family, that nothing can really be, nothing worthwhile can be achieved within yourself. There's a kind of evolution within yourself too. You are looking at creating a property outside yourself, but it's been like what? It's the 11th year of BLF now and the 6th year for the Poetry Festival next year. And I do think, yes, each year it's like you're a headless chicken, you're doing your own little dance in your backyard, wondering how it'll all fall into place. But it's also you yourself understanding, these are my limits, this is how much I can push the envelope, this is what I can do, and things like that. Having said that, I do feel at some point I understand that the buck stops with me. If someone is really angry, it could be somebody in the team or it could be somebody who's your guest, whom you've invited. I mean, there have been occasions where my invitation letter has gone out again, I'm saying I'm a short story writer. I like to edit everything that I say or write or communicate. So it was just like a very blunt, would you be free on these dates? And I know that they were really, offended by that. And I feel the apology has to come from me because you know, sometimes I do feel the buck stops with you when things go really wrong.
Nitya, have you found the formula for being zen? Is there, I mean, how you, I mean, can you be zen during the festival, or is it sleepless nights?
No, it's full adrenaline. And then you reach that point of getting fully exhausted that zen is the state you reach every night. But yeah, I mean, it's the non-glamorous bits is buying mosquito repellent because suddenly the auditorium has more mosquitoes, or so many people have come, you're so happy, but everyone is sweating, so ordering fans, editing the brochure at the last minute. All of these are the getting yelled at by filmmakers because their file is not playing properly or whatever. So non-glamorous bits, but zen is no zen. There's adrenaline and crash. That's about it. Yeah.
What about you, Ravi? Are you ready to guide a dummy?
Most certainly. I think I can give general gyan. I'm at large available for all this. But that said, actually there is a part which is the importance part. I think, for example, you know, especially a festival that's arrived, there's a part. I mean, lots of people are nice to Shinie because they want to get onto the festival dais. Yes. So there is a nice part. So I wouldn't say it's not all glamorous. You're wanted. And of course, when you have to say no to someone else, there's a challenge that you have to address. But I think there's a lot which is the sweat. And I would agree with Shinie. It's the team finally that ends up helping and delivering, etc. So it has both components, especially a festival that's arrived. A festival that has yet to make its mark, the challenges are different. Because you got to cajole people to come and be part of it. Because in a sense, those become the defining years. So the early years, you have that kind of a challenge. And you need a compelling story to get them. But once you have arrived, I think the nature of the challenge changes. That's how I would see it.
All right. The next topic is obviously going to be funding, because I think the minute you decide to have an event or a festival, that is the first thing that stands in front. It's almost like a wall, and I know people across, I mean, even if it's the smallest event, you want a sponsor first. I mean, that's like the thing that they tell you to cross off the first. So, Nitya, I want to start with you because BQFF is largely community funded. But yeah, tell me that. I mean, is it still difficult for you to get funding even though the festival's 13 years old, or have you found again, have you got a process in place where the money comes in? It's not a problem anymore.
No, every year it is a question mark. So at some point we're like, we have to start raising money. But, and we did set up a charitable trust at some point in 2017 or so that there's some entity that can continue and go forward, right? And even if we are not managing the festival, a few years from now, someone can take it and run with it. And we're trying to build some kind of a corpus slowly. But till now it has been like every year is a scramble of will we get enough funds or not. But the community donations have just been amazing, right? There are years when people can't give as much and, you know, it sort of dips, but it's not been such a, and we have a policy whereby we don't do full sponsorship. We don't take on full sponsors of the festival kind of thing. And so it's a big internal discussion, who do we, you know, invite as sponsors, who do we agree to, all of that, and different methods, right? You've asked, like, I mean, what are the different methods that we can use to raise funds besides Keto, which is the platform that we use to crowd fund. But garage sales and, you know, community organizations have organized those sales for us and organized parties to fundraise and then given us that money. And so every year it's been that kind of effort. So, yeah.
All right.
Did you have a...
I just want to know, so is it a paka no when it comes to corporate sponsorships? Do you do that because you don't want to be influenced?
We don't have that kind of a policy because we can't. I mean, even people who are giving might be, but we do have discussions, and it's on a case-by-case basis, how much money we need extra this year and how to raise it. So we have one-page ads in the brochure, which we try and support queer businesses, which then have stalls in the queer and other politically aware businesses that have.
Ravi, I think I'll ask you this. And I have two questions, right? First is, yeah, I mean, BLF is what, the largest community funded, right?
Yes.
But yeah, and you have very powerful names behind it. I mean, it's like the movers and shakers of Bangalore supported, but how is it? Is it like one of those cohesive efforts where everyone owns the festival? Is it that? And so they actually put in their funds very generously? Or?
So I'll tackle BLF first and then before going to BIC. So the Bangalore Lit Fest has an interesting funding background story. So in year one, I won't name the company, but we went for the standard model. So year one, our budget, this festival size was 30 lakhs. This year's festival size is 1.6 crores. So that's what's grown in 11 years. So at the 30 lakhs, we actually had a company which, the problem when you go to companies, they want to look at spreadsheets and footfalls and all that stuff. And you can't really. This doesn't work on spreadsheets and footfalls. It works because people believe that arts and culture, and when you talk to them, it has to come from their marketing budget, then they ask you these questions. You cannot meet the answer, you cannot give the answers.
Correct.
And if it's from the CSR budget, there's poverty reduction, health, education, we are at the bottom of the list. So it's a tough one. So in year one, what happened, this company, we had more or less tied up 90% of the funding, so we thought we were through the gate. And with 2 weeks to go, they pulled out saying we want to fund something in Mysore and we are not going to give you the money with 2 weeks to go for the festival. So then that's when I came up with the idea of Friends of BLF. One had connects in the city, there was credibility. I said, look, for the 30 lakhs, it's possible to find 15 to 20 people willing to give between 1 to 2 lakhs. And let's go down the route of Friends of BLF. So we became a community-funded festival as a second choice. It was not our first choice. Our first choice was the standard model. But that one experience taught us that don't ever get down this corporate route and thing. So as a result, if you see our 10 festivals as a brandless festival.
Correct.
There are no brands, nothing. So even if some corporate foundation is giving us money, they don't get visibility. So it's really brandless in the truth. So it's truly community. So the Friends of BLF idea really caught on. So today we have about 105 Friends of BLF today, as we speak, from Bangaloreans, who typically give between 1 lakh to 5 lakhs. So that's the kind of funding that they give. It really is nothing for them, for the people who are giving. And we also wanted to broad base it so that no one person really, there's a temptation to go wholesale. Let me try and raise 50% from one person, there's less work to do. But then the problem is that one person then starts calling the shots. So here with this broad basing, apart from being community funded, no one person calls the shots in that thing, and therefore the festival director is the first and last word as far as the festival is concerned. So that's really how the Friends of BLF happened. And it's a struggle. It's not that the 1.6 is covered. I've got another month and I've still got a gap to fill. But you're confident that you can fill it. So that's really as far as the BLF story goes. And Bangalore's been a generous city. I work in other cities on other areas in urban. I can't see other city, well-to-do people willing to come forward and do the way Bangalore has done. There is something about the Bangalore traffic that maybe makes them give money for such causes. I'd like to say Bangalore weather, but so that's... moving to BIC, and you have a question, and...
I had a hold off.
Yeah. So, because when we spoke, you mentioned that it's institutional funding. It's not. Yeah. It's also community funding. That's the beauty of BIC. So the BIC is also, you think it's an institution, but the institution also needs money. And where does that money come from? So we have 1,100 members who pay 7,500 rupees a year to be a member, and they get nothing in return. They get nothing. They just are enabling a place like BIC, which is a place for Bangalore. If you see BIC events, including the Habba and the events, 90% of the audience are non-members who attend BIC events. So these are people who have their heart in the right place. And that's been my pitch, which is why I do things where I work with people who have their heart in the right place. And my pitch is always the same, that we need to do something which is larger than ourselves, and it needs to be for the general public. So whether it's a city initiative of fixing some waste or some other, or whether it be arts and culture, we need people to come forward and go beyond the transactional life, which is their life everywhere. What's in it for me? To saying, can I do one part? I'm looking at 0.001%, which is just saying I'm happy to do it because it's worth doing. To me, that pitch is the pitch that works for festivals, arts and culture, etc. Conventional pitch of what will you get by way of mileage or this thing is not the pitch.
All right. I have the question about grants, but I think I'll ask
No,
it
ask
towards
it right
the
now
end.
itself, I mean, if you
Okay,
want.
the other thing. So I was associated with the Articulary Biennial last year. So I saw from close quarters how difficult it is get funds. And also, it's not too, the government grants themselves are kind of, they're very difficult to get by. They make it hard for you to get the 15 lakhs that you ask for, right? Because they'll be like, what is the coverage I've got and all of that. Where is the brand mention and stuff like that? Tell me that, because
Yeah, I've also been part of working with government.
So tell me that the government role when it comes to funding, are they proactive? What is it?
No, not at all. So government, getting money from government, very, very difficult. And if you do get money, it's a root canal operation. And after you've got it, the Tandava dance you have to do is another part. So it is both, it has all these elements. So my advice to people has been, to the extent possible, try to keep government out of it. Because they also make demands, so and so should be the chief guest and various other things. You know, it just, I mean, you just have to see the way the Hampi festival gets thing, and the government festival has its own this thing. They actually are the ones who need to be taking the lead.
True.
But honestly speaking, the reality on the ground today, it's the private people, the civil society, they are the ones who are taking the lead. And I basically, in fact, even BIC, I always call it as a privately enabled public purpose institution. So it's all private, but the purpose is public. This should have been government's role. It's a bit sad that it is not the way it works out. There is a lot of money, and there are people who get money out of government, but it's based on a totally different economics out there. So if you really want to run a festival which is honest, integrity, and what you're, to the purpose of what that is, my suggestion would be, don't take government money.
I guess, yeah. Now coming to the curation, Nitya, I'm going to start with BQFF. And again, I like the description of, you know, the About Us, where you say that BQFF, the films that are shown are non-Western, are from non-Western locations by independent filmmakers, popular cinema that experiments with LGBTQ plus themes. And I like this line: experimental, radically queer films that push our ideas of good aesthetics, which means you shouldn't always be expecting films to be pretty, right? I like that. I mean, there you're shaking a regular viewer's perspective of what film should be. But again, when it comes to curation, what I want to know first, of course, is, do you actually, when it comes to finalizing it, is there enough content though that suits your definition, that fits your definition? And is it difficult, or are you all, is it a year-long thing, the whole scouting of films process?
The 7 of us right now who do it on a voluntary basis. We don't, we're not employees of BQFF, we don't take a salary or whatever. So no, we are not organized enough to do it year long. We get volunteers at the end, and we start working like 2-3 months before the festival when we put our call out. But we always get enough entries and responses in terms of submissions to then enable a preview process. And preview process, many films do fall out of the basket, and so then we're left with anything from like 55 to 85 films. So depending on how many days, all of that. So that's what you wanted to know, right?
Yeah, like when it comes to curation, like, yeah. And do you see that the film matches the criterion written on the website?
So it's not
or
all
are you
non-Western,
pretty
it's not all experimental. We
Right.
do have very pretty, very mainstream, very goo-goo, you know, tearjerkers, and you know, where you'll just, like you'll watch it on, you know, Netflix or, right? It's going to be available on all the OTTs also. So we don't define ourselves as non-mainstream, as completely alternative, no. So that's not the thing, but we do need a balance. So the balance is, earlier there used to be only films on gay men, only films from the northern hemisphere and the west in terms of Europe and the US. So you'd have only white bodies on screen and only white gay male bodies on screen. So we had to actively then go through a process of soliciting lesbian films, not lesbians, but, right? So films, you know, about lesbian experiences, then trans and intersex, now gender non-binary, whatever's out there, right? And not just that, but race, parts of the world, languages, even within India, not just metropolitan cities, but otherwise other languages besides Hindi and, you know, so Kannada films, Marathi films, all of that. So that's the striking the balance. Indie filmmakers and big budget, and production house films, so distributors and YouTube videos like that. So everything is a juggling act.
But over the years now, have you had filmmakers now approach you because they see it as a good platform to reach out to people? That has that
and
opened
we
up?
have some filmmakers who keep sending us their films regularly. I mean, whom we love and who come, and we have warm, fuzzy feelings towards them and all that.
Alright.
We have distributors who write to us every year with their list of new films. So it's not just films, also it's performances and art exhibitions also. But that we are slightly more shaky on. But we've had fabulous ones. But yeah, that's the balance.
Interesting. Yeah, Shinie, I'll have to ask you, when it comes to curation, BLF and BPF also, I mean, they're so pretty cool and they've become such big, what do you call it, properties now. I want to ask you is, do you actually have to say no to writers today? Has it become difficult? Like, do you have writers, when it comes to curation and all of that, has it become easier? Has the list of writers you want grown? Are publishing houses actually approaching you a year in advance? How is that now?
Actually, it's very strange that editors and marketing people, they skip from one publisher to another. So over these 10 years, I've made good friends. They would represent one publisher one day, but 2 years down the line, they are representing another publisher. But to answer your larger question, whether I'm dealing with, as a team, whether we are dealing with a publisher or the writers, what I feel is the thing that is that changes from year to year. Of course, we want to give a different look and feel to the festival every year. There is a conscious effort to do that. And it's not difficult because newer writers are writing newer books, and the festival takes its persona from that, a lot of that from that. And what is happening in the country, what's happening in the world, all of that does influence. And from year to year, how COVID made us go kind of underground. We went to BIC. We had a more hybrid, more Zoom, more online, less offline the first year. And the second year, that is last year, we had more live and less of the online presence. But through it all, what I feel is the human element is very, very mercurial. And is the surprise factor actually, because some writers that you hear about and you think, oh my God, they must be so egoistic and it's so difficult to communicate something with them. And they sometimes turn out to be I hate to use a word which applies to weather, but coolest, They have no, they are very straightforward as to what they'll come, what they'll do, how many minutes. All right, you want to give me half an hour, that's fine. I think BLF always tries to minimize the hours on, the minutes on the stage, because we want it to be impactful. But for some people, that might be only that much time and I have so much to say. I'm really going to change everybody's life with my words, so please give me longer. So I just feel that whole thing about getting to know people, because authors are, at the end of the day, they are human beings, they're people, and you get to know them at another very, very mundane level. Somebody doesn't go to pick them up from the airport. How do they feel about it? You would know it pretty quick,
Sometimes it's an eye-opener that way, you're like,
no, and it's not always unpleasant. It's not always unpleasant, and I have to tell you, we have huge groups of volunteers, students who work with us, both festivals, and there are writers who send pictures of themselves when they were in college, and volunteers are fighting, I'll pick her up, and then there is this utter silence from the airport, we think she's arrived, but she doesn't look like a picture.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I just feel that in every festival, from festival to festival, what we realize is that as a team, we grow, and our interaction with authors are very much based on how the authors interact with the world.
All right. I think this I'll ask both of you. It's about the location of Bangalore, because we're talking about city and festivals. Does that matter? When it comes to, say, authors living somewhere, say, North America, in Seattle or something, then the distance is huge. So does that factor in ever when you're inviting a
Only
speaker?
to the extent of how much does the business class cost. I wish we had more budgets. The interesting thing is actually quite a few of them are ready to come. And it's more budget considerations that end up. And some, of course, with their academic schedule and other stuff. So the limitation, I think, is more on our side in terms of how many we can afford to fly into this particular place rather than the other thing. And BLF and all, I always think of these festivals, and she was talking about volunteers. We are a college festival on steroids. That's all that we are. And that is why there's a sense of joy at BLF, and even the BPF, because it's all volunteers and nobody's getting paid. They're just getting some lunch coupons while they are there, that's it. So you have that whole college energy. It's not, well, there are many other literature festivals which is fully driven by event management firms and paid people, etc. The difference shows.
Okay, now here's the question that the journalist in me is yearning to ask for. And this is about, I'm going to just read out the question. You don't have to name names, but have you had instances where you've had to uninvite a speaker? And I'm asking this question especially because we are living in a culture today where the cancel culture is like rife and everyone's ready to cancel someone because they said something wrong on Twitter. Yes, so as a festival director today, is it better to play it safe than get speakers who are controversial or cancelled? It applies to the VQF also, where have you had to cancel a film or because someone said it's controversial? Who wants to take it first?
I'm happy to take it.
Yeah, tell me that.
Yes, there have been instances, and it's because something has come in the press, then you're wondering whether is it okay to go ahead, not go ahead, etc. And actually, I wouldn't say it's so much uninvite as much as to figure a way to bring it to a proper closure, so it happens. The other thing that I'm noticing as a trend, and this is taking into account, I'm taking both the things that I'm involved with, and especially the one I'm currently, even at BIC, etc. The times that we are living in, I must state that I think there's a fair amount of self-censorship that is happening. Every time a name comes up for consideration, and I told you, we are doing 275 of them in a year, so the names are just going through our, like nothing on earth. You're just wondering, is this troublesome? Am I going to get into trouble if I call this person? So increasingly what I think is happening, and this is anecdotal, you avoid trouble through self-censorship and not do the invitation, as opposed to the invite cancel kind of stuff. I would say the invite cancel was some time ago, but in the current place that we are in today, I can tell you that, speaking for myself, there are some names that straight away flashes in my head saying this is trouble. Then I figure out how to either repackage it or how to balance it. So if it represents one point of view, I say that I will go ahead with this event if I can get the other point of view. Otherwise, this event does not go forward. So you either balance the platform or you do this. That, to my mind, is the times we are living in right now. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but as someone who does this, we are self-censoring. It is not free speech in the true sense of the term. That's the world that we are living in right now. Happy to.
Yeah, Nitya, you said the festivals over the years, it's not been a smooth flow. Is it related
we have
to...
excitement almost on a yearly basis. But
have you had issues where...
So we have never uninvited anybody, whether it's a panelist or a speaker or... there have been filmmakers who have chosen to pull out. Recently something happened, but it's not as much about, it wasn't as much about our festival as about some conditions in play at that point in time. But yeah, if they want to pull out, it's up to them, right? So, but we have, the other thing only thing we've been forced to do is maybe shift timings around a little bit to make something less foregrounded. If it's a screening which is in the limelight and in the press and is hot and burning and the festival might burn, whatever. So I think that, we are a politically aware festival. So we are not neutral. Queer does not mean only LGBT. It also means other forms of, solidarity with other movements across the globe and in India. So it means anti-caste, it means, religious tolerance and equality and everything. It means anti-pinkwashing, all of that, right? So It is that. So we are that kind of festival. We do have controversies. Whether it's some event that happens and then gets taken out of context in, I don't know, news channels and then gets splashed across and then we end up dealing with the police or something, right? So that all of that has happened. So, but yeah, I think it's always a balance between protecting the festival and protecting all the films and the performers and the exhibitions that you invite to it. You have to do both. One can't, throw the other under the bus. So it's always that kind of a balance. Yeah. But with each instance, you have a different kind of discussion and you take a call. So there's no blanket thing of either provoking or playing it safe is not a, there's no.
See, unlike BQFF, BIC, for example, claims to be a neutral platform. So for us, representing all points of view is part of the platform itself. And therefore, we have to make that effort. Except when it comes to certain issues on which there are no two sides, in which case you talk about the side that needs to be spoken about or the issue that needs to be spoken about. There is no trying to balance two sides on some of the issues, particularly when it comes to marginalized communities and the like. There's nothing like there's another view that this is okay. So, but those, you can run those kind of programs, but the rest you have to try and balance. And festival walkouts, I mean, BLF has had a festival walkout, you're aware of that. And so we had, a whole lot of authors walking out saying that we will not be there. So we have dealt with that also.
Oh, yeah.
So this authors cancelling the festival, not us cancelling someone.
Okay. Now I'm going to go to the whole inclusive aspect of the community festivals. Is everyone's invited, irrespective of. And all the festivals, all the three here, are actually BPF, so 4, are centrally, they're inclusive because they're free. The location's central, so everyone has access to it. So tell me that how much of this inclusivity is, I think I'll ask you this question. How much is it about the fact that, about how Bangalore is as a city, because it's not very elitist? And again, the whole have and have not, the divide is not as obvious or rankling as it is in other metropolises. Tell me that. Do you think it's about Bangalore itself, that you can have inclusive?
I do feel that, because I have lived in Bombay, Delhi and Bangalore kind of an equal amount of time, Cochin and Lakshadweep. And I just feel that there is something about Bangalore where people, I don't know how to put it without being politically incorrect, because I'm not trying to run down other cities, but there is a personality in Bangalore, maybe like he said, waiting at the traffic signals. I don't know what the thing is, but every festival, the early morning, just before the first session starts, Ravi, Krishna, me, some of the other team people, we just stand in front of the stage. People are just trickling in, people are just going to come in, and then you feel this energy in the air. I don't know, it's kind of mystical almost. And I challenge you to find that electric alchemy anywhere else in India. Because, people are coming in, they've read who the authors are going to be, who are going to come up on stage. They've read, and there is that right amount of curiosity, analysis, questions, and respect for the speakers. And there is no one-upmanship, there's no ego as such that comes in. And I do feel Bangalore stands above all other cities to make these kind of things possible.
Free makes it inclusive. And if I talk about BLF, there's a concerted effort to do language programming, local language as well as Bhasha, etc. At least to the extent of about 15% of the program content is those. That takes effort, because at the end of the day, it's primarily an English festival. There are other festivals which don't even have space for regional and Bhasha. And children. And we have for children. So it becomes a whole family outing. And so you have to actually think about what does it mean to be inclusive, and then work at it. So it's not something that you can just put it out there, I'm an inclusive festival. You have to live it.
Yeah. Yours, I want to know is, again, it's a festival, say, for a minority community. But I want to know, do you actually now have just film lovers who just love films coming in? you know, do you have, yeah.
So first I want to respond to the inclusion thing, because we've had this discussion several times internally. And I mean, you realize, I think, whether you're employing people or you work at a university or you whatever, that everyone is welcome doesn't mean everyone comes. It's never the case, right? Everyone is welcome. To take that to everyone comes is a whole lifetime of working and a lifetime of creating, trying to create a certain kind of space. The BQFF, we love Bangalore, right? I mean, Bangalore is our like jam. So that's true. And we love the city. All of us have been living here for a long time. So, but it is not more open and liberal than, I mean, cities get tags, right?
Correct.
Chennai is conservative and whatever. I've seen like parts of Chennai that are wild and rocking, right? I mean, or Bombay is a nightlife city, or Delhi is academic city, or, you know, Kolkata is, I don't know, old culture city. Whatever it is, I can't put a tag on Bangalore, and Bangalore doesn't allow it because there are too many layers in this city that, you know, one has seen. But all of those layers are not coming to the festival, right? I mean, not entering the festival. It is very much, it's an international film festival. The films that are in Indian languages, okay, right? But the films that are not in Indian languages have English subtitles, which automatically cuts off half of your audience viewership. And then it's in spaces and cultural institutes, which are not necessarily everybody walk-in places. I mean, we are sitting in IHS, so this is not a new question for IHS, mapping the city and its events in terms of demographies, right? Of who goes to which event, who goes to which venue in the city, who goes to Ravindra Kalakshetra, who goes to Rangashankara, who goes to Ragamandira, whatever, right? So all of these, and who goes to Vishranti Nilayam and who goes to some other place. I mean, we map it and we try and work with it, and ours is not like a, is not, we are trying. So, and the ways in which we're trying, we can discuss maybe, but if you want to move
how
on to
you
that,
make the festival
trying
more
to make it more, if
you want to move on. Is there anything, oh right, do we have time?
No, we're almost setting out. And also, you know, I keep saying I'd like the vegetable vendor to come to BIC. Of course, she's intimidated. She's welcome.
Exactly, yeah.
And I've actually been taking another tack. I'm saying that, let's say there's a movie screening happening. I'm talking about cultural events. Make an effort to get the drivers who have driven their clients to the venue to come and sit in the auditorium. That's the start we are making. So that at least the drivers, we tell them, boss, park the car and you also come and sit inside. No, they won't come for a talk because it's in English, etc. But arts and culture events is free. They should come and sit inside.
Did you see something like that for the Open Street Festival? Because again, it was in a public area.
See, Open Street was on MG Road.
Yeah, but did you see all classes then? Like, was it more?
It was still the middle class and upper middle classes.
Okay.
That's the reality as far as open streets went. But you have to again make extra effort if you really want to reach out to that group and get them in. It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
question. I was just
Nathan.
doing my own thing. But you asked if film students and film lovers and
I
all
wanna
that
know
come.
that also, like,
So
do
the
you have
audience
a
has
wider audience
changed
coming?
over the last, it's not just members of LGBT community,
Correct.
but it's college students from different cities who come in, film institute students from different cities. We have our regular, above 60 regular members who attend all of that. So the audience has become more diverse in that sense. So, and not all of them are from very privileged locations. Yeah.
One question? Or does the audience have questions?
Hi, thank you. I work here at IHS, and I mean, thank you for the panel. It's pretty informative. So my question is pretty much about the framework of setting up a festival. If I were to now start, maybe not related to literature, but any sort of domain, other than funding being a brick wall, like you said, but what would be the ideal scenario to sort of start this, other than the people and then, getting all the, the logistics in place? Anything else that I would like to sort of think about when I have to start about bringing up people together in a place at a venue to talk about things, to do things together, maybe eventually lead up to something called as a festival?
So if I understand you right, you have a festival in mind, you have a core team that is there, all that is happening, and let's assume money is taken care of. What next do I need to keep in mind? Is that what you're basically saying? Then I think the biggest one really is going to be outreach. How are you going to get to your target audience that you exist and this festival is happening, and you get them into the room or into the ground or whatever it be, would be the most important activity. Under the assumption that you have a core team and you've got the rest of it figured out, you've got the framework, context of what this festival is going to be about, then I think your primary effort is to make sure that, and today it's very expensive, of course social media gives you options, but that is where the bulk of your effort will go to get them. I mean, even though we are now in our 11th year, as she said, while we are standing there, that first 5 minutes till you see the first 20, 30 people come in, and for me at BIC, it's a regular affair. I have a formula. By seeing the number of people 15 minutes before the show, I know how many are going to turn up for that event. That really becomes the biggest one. Because now you've taken the effort, you've put this whole thing together, speakers are coming or performers are coming, whatever. Now you've got to make sure that there are people out there. And that, I think, becomes the most important.
Hi, I'm Subhe, and hi, I have one question, is that when you're hosting these festivals, right, in a city like Bangalore, accessibility is an issue at some point. How do you sort of decide on a venue where people can actually come about? You know, it is challenging and we lack these public spaces. So these are conversations we should need to start having, and maybe as a collective get a space which is centrally located where everybody could probably access it, and year long you have these different festivals happening. Yeah, and not make it elite as well.
Tell you how we do it, but so long time venue partners for BQFF have been the Goethe Institute, Maximilian Bhavan and Alliance Francaise. So extremely supportive, centrally located, but central to whom is another question, right? So if you're living in the deep north or the deep south or the deep west, like I travel to Sarjapur for work, so that is very, very far away, and my colleagues will no way know how going to attend a festival in Vasant Nagar, right? So unless they somehow make it a day picnic or something like that. But yeah, and venue funding and venue sustainability and venue location, all three, right? So to somehow find some stability, because the next year if your venue falls through, you are hunting, and not all venues allow for what you need, right? Explicit films of a certain kind, even with exemption, whatever, right? Or content that is suitable for only 18 above. All of these are considerations. So, I mean, the venue is, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but venue costs, of course, our venue partners have been gracious enough to give us waivers, or, right? So, over time, you build that relationship, and centrality, yes, sure. We are very grateful that these places are in Vasant Nagar and Indira Nagar, but it's still a question, right? Are you happy that BQFF is in Vasant Nagar or Indira Nagar?
Yeah, I'm glad about it. I'm just saying, would it also make sense, what if the festivals like scattered across the entire city, and then you sort of do this hop in, hop off kind of situation? You think that might also work
Logistically
out?
a nightmare, but.
Yeah, logistically
Right?
a nightmare, but it's going to be a rock and roll show.
You'll have film screenings failing all in 5 different locations at the same time, and we have one person who handles our tech. So split them into 5 parts. And No, we love our volunteers, so please come. So, I mean, see, this is what we've been considering, right? Like film screening in Hosahalli, and one in like Dodbalapur, and one in whatever. So, but we don't have enough of a setup to make it happen right now. It's like us considering Kannada subtitling for every film. It's a dream, right? So you come and help us make that dream happen. No problem.
It's a very valid question. And actually, Bangalore is now a city with many city centers. You know, Whitefield is a city center, Jayanagar is a center, Malleshwaram, like she said. We obviously try to go central as in the traditional central, which is why we technically, it's been Lalit Ashok, before that Royal. 2 years we did do it in Electronic City, and the only driver was it was coming free. And but that said, so right now it has to be said. The irony really is, to give Bangalore a public a free-to-attend festival centrally, I have to go to a private 5-star hotel, pay a super bomb money to enable that. And that is the tragedy of our commons. Actually, the government, the least they could have done is to create urban commons where these kind of things can be held at economical costs or whatever. That's the minimum that government needs to be doing. And if these kind of commons are available in 8 or 10 places spread across Bangalore, the city will rock, and there will be a logic to take these things. So we have now consciously chosen that the hotel, because the authors stay there and they just descend. Because one year, we had the authors staying somewhere else and the venue somewhere else. It was a logistical nightmare. What we thought was a car to drop the author became the author's car to go to the rest of the city for the rest of the day. So we totally underestimated what we needed because the cars were just disappearing. So that is when, after year one, we said the authors will stay in the hotel that the event is being held in so that we don't have this logistical nightmare. But really, the question to ask really is, what is government doing to create more of these kind of commons in terms of things? That really is what is required. And responses like what Nitya is doing through BQFF or BLF or BPFF or BICR are private responses to a yawning gap in the public space. Come, Anupama, a former journalist here, give us some tough time. Take the mic. Just make an observation at least. You've been an observer of this place.
Talking about, I think Maha asked a question about how zen are you. I know I can say that Shinie is very zen. I have seen her sit at tables looking absolutely zen, and so does Ravi. Sort of keep walking around in between sessions. But brilliant job, Nitya. I haven't come to any of the. I know. Sorry, but I think it's wonderful that you guys put together these things. I must confess that I didn't come for the Whitefield or Electronic City one because it was too far away. I'm an old Bangalorean, yes.
And to make the Electronic City one a bigger nightmare, Jayalalitha got arrested.
Oh,
so
right.
Which actually threw one day out of schedule, out of whack.
Right, yeah.
A lot of Chennai writers didn't come. No, but Anupama, just to comment on your comment, I feel that the first 3 years I was kind of getting rattled very visibly, and I realized that that has a cascading effect, and I now do make a deliberate effort at, just hiding what I really feel that things are going wrong. Or I think in year 3, there was one author, one primetime author who just cancelled on that day. He was to come on that day and he did not come. And I remember sobbing because, just hearing that. But I think now I have maybe from inside toughened up. And I'm like, okay, as a team, we can take it. This person is not coming. And what do we do instead, So that, like I said, that evolution has taken place. But also, I have seen other festival directors who look very hassled or, and I really did make that conscious effort that whatever I'm seeing on my phone, because we have a group chat, there's a WhatsApp group chat where everything that's going wrong comes up, and you're talking to someone and you've seen this, and that person is telling you how he or she had a migraine and, they had to call a doctor, and you have to look very sympathetic, and you're actually thinking, what the hell, why didn't that happen? So, yeah, it's like many expressions on one face.
In fact, anecdotally, I'll give you 2 stories, both relate to the Electronic City 2 years. So it's a non-smoking campus, because that campus Velankani had given us. So there was this one author who was smoking and insisted, and then, because I'm the guy with the gray hair, they always come and tell me, please go deal with this. So I went and told the author, you can't smoke here. And he threw a fit. And he said, if that's the case, I won't I'll get onto the stage. I said, be my guest. Can I call the car for you? He quietly went on stage and stubbed out his cigarette. So you got to be firm where firmness is required. Because at the end of the day, we are all, it's just volunteer energy, putting out a free festival to attend and catering to everybody, including giving you a stage to interact with your fans or whatever. The least you can do is not have an attitude. And some of them are divas, but it doesn't matter. I'm happy to have a diva walk. I'm happy to take that stance. The second story, again, so this was a Bollywood actor whom I shall not name. So, the ride from Bangalore airport to thing was about 1 hour, 45 minutes to us. His agent was repeatedly calling, saying, he was traveling in a BMW car, but he was very upset. It was because the trip was not ending. It's just endless. And they were all getting hassled, and, everybody got, again, they said, Ravi, you go meet the car and meet the actor. I said, I'm happy to meet the actor. So as soon as I met him, he got out, and he was quite upset and livid. He said, you guys never told me that it takes so long to come to this venue. So I said, if we had told you, would you have come for this festival? He said, no. That's why we didn't tell you, I told him. So both he and I laughed. So here was a case where humor sort of, tackled the situation. The other one was saying you can take a walk. So you just, as a festival organizer, you have to be clear as to what is acceptable, what is not, and find the balance.
That's what is a ringside view, no? We used to write about, there are some interesting stories, but I think we've run out of time.
You covered it. Times of India did a whole thing on what were people wearing at Bangalore Lit Fest. I'm sure that was Mahalakshmi's article.
My favorite story is about a politician. He said something on stage which was totally taken out of context, and the next day it was my story. It went with my byline. That story got so viral that current dispensation actually had issues. And I remember thinking, oh my God, is my article being read in Delhi right now?
Maybe this session we should have made it a gossip.
Yeah, I know. There are a lot of stories like this that...
And I think BLF was very late in understanding things go viral. We had this, in Electronic City, Anupama, you missed it. There was this main debate, grand finale debate. I think Girish Karnad was part of it, Arun Chaudhary was part of it.
I think that happened in Lalita Shok. It was like...
No, it happened at Electronic City.
Electronic City had most of this action.
Yeah, and there was this huge fight that broke out on the stage, and nobody wrote about it.
You mentioned that some of these people withdrew at the last moment on the day of the event. You invite them again, or they are blacklisted?
That was the curator, festival director has to say. We don't blacklist per se. But I'll tell you something else I do. I'm fastidious about time. And this is... So there was this very, very, very well-known author, very even today. And for his session, he came 15 minutes late because he was the only one not staying at the hotel. So he got caught in Bangalore traffic. So it was a 45-minute session. I met him and said, the start time is delayed, but the end time is the same. So I docked this person 15 minutes, and he only spoke for 30 minutes. And 1,000 people had landed up to hear him. To me, it doesn't matter. Time means time, and therefore you just have to respect the people's time who have come on time. And the next session, because what happens in a festival schedule, when you have 40 sessions back to back or 25, one session runs late, your schedule has no meaning. It has no meaning, because people are looking at the schedule and saying, I will be there at 2:30 to listen to this. It's no longer 2:30. So unless you are almost heretical about this is unacceptable, it won't happen, and we have done that. Much to even the founder's horror, but it happened. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just going on because it's interesting stories, that's all.
Overall, any interesting story from BQFF? Have you had any journalists call you next day saying, did this event happen? Did this happen at...
Yeah, next day or whatever. Yeah, no, we've had broadcast live Kannada news, English news, everything. No, so images captured secretly, and then everything has happened. So lots of controversies. Yeah, it's.
We have to be well read in law and all that stuff.
Yeah, but it's not about queerness, right? The queer is not as controversial as it once was. So, nobody is attacking the Pride March or being the Pride March. Nobody is attacking just LGBT. It is queer in alliance with other things, or other political affiliations and our current climate and everything. So that other issues seem to be more contentious than just queerness. We feel quite okay.
All right, then. This has been a fascinating and extremely engaging conversation. I had fun asking you questions and listening to all your answers. You have been a fabulous audience as well. Thank you so much for turning up on a Friday evening. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope to see you all at all these festivals. And just one last thank you. Thank you, Surya and Mehreen, for considering me for the job of a moderator. And I also want to thank the ISL speaker, sign language experts.